All right, let's take a little closer look at the things we can put into tables, the contents, and a little bit of basic styling for them. Now you notice that we can put lots of things in these cells. Here I have a list. Here I have an image. Here it looks like I have nothing. A very common thing to do when you want nothing is to put in a non-breaking space, although the purists don't like that. And we'll look at other options later. But anyhow, this is what we've got. And so you notice that we can put all kinds of things in. The other sort of thing that you ought to notice is that sizes adjust so that things that we put in there fit. This is a fairly large image, so you can see that this has been stretched. These have all been stretched so that this image will fit in here. Similarly, these cells here and these cells here don't need so much height. But this list does, and so the whole row gets adjusted to that. And here we've changed the width. You'll notice that the width is a little less because I took the word cell out. This word here, cell, I've taken that out of everything here. So this column here is a little bit more narrow than these other columns are. So the columns and the rows, the table, are going to automatically adjust to what I put in there. That's the first thing to know. The second thing is, what do we want to do about these double lines? These double lines aren't really all that attractive. Perhaps we would like single lines. There's some easy styling for doing that. And it's going to be this styling right here. We'll plop it in and then get a chance to see what it does. So what this does is we're telling it that we want the table, we want the heading cells, and we want the data cells to all have a 2 pixel solid black border. And the border collapse property, when we say collapse, means collapse these borders into each other. So we've done this. Let's save it. Let's reload. And there we are. Now we have single lines instead of double lines. So that's how you get single lines versus double lines, doing this. If we wanted to, we could make this 1 pixel, in which case our lines would be much skinnier. So whatever you like. I kind of liked the 2 pixel one myself, so we'll go back and take a look at that. So that's one thing that we can do. Now, and something else we can do, you see this table, we could put width limits and height limits on this table. And so if I did that, I could say width gets, well, let's say 50. We'll make it 50 pixels. And height gets 50. Okay, so we save that. And now you notice that we've suddenly made the image much smaller, so these rows here also become smaller because now it'll fit. Now we can do that. That's kind of a quick and dirty way to do it. Let's look at a better way to do that, but that's something that you can do. If an image is causing this to be extraordinarily large and you want it to be smaller, you can just make the image smaller. Now I'm going to go back to the way we were there. And we'll save and reload. So we're back to where we were. Now, one other thing you ought to notice is that we're really providing the information that we want about the borders in here right up here. Want 2 pixels, want it to be solid, we want it to be black. Once we start styling the borders using CSS, it's time to get rid of this down here. We don't need that anymore. So we save it and we reload, and there we are. Now one last thing. If we use divs, and we've seen how those can be useful already, we can control sizes here. I'm going to go grab a little bit of div styling. And for right now, I'm just going to style all divs this way because I'm only going to do one div. All right, so where am I going to put that div? Well, I'm going to put that div right around this image. So I'm going to have div, so I'm going to open a div, and I'm going to close a div and I'll save it. And you'll notice that I've given this div only 50 pixels of height. So I'll save it and we'll reload. Oh, look how that collapsed. But you notice that we have scroll bars. So now I can scroll that. So I've given it less height, but I can scroll what's in here, and I could do the same thing with text. And that's because I've made overflow to be auto. And I made the height to be a mere 50 pixels. If I turn this to 75 pixels and reload, now I've got a little more that I can see, and I have my scroll bar here that I can use to scroll the table. So what have we learned? Well, you've learned how to create single borders instead of doubled borders. We've taken a look at just how things adjust here to the size of the things that we put in. And we've seen how we can use divs to get better control over what's going on inside a particular cell. We'll look at a little more styling in our next video.